sharing my PDF slide again for chapter 12, delivering your speech. And we're going to talk about the highlights of this chapter. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read it. There's more information in the text as usual, but we're just going to go over this stuff here that hopefully will help you become more proficient and comfortable in delivering your speech. In chapter 12, once again, it's talking about delivering your speech, but what delivering your speech is the approach to delivering your speech, right? Understanding the nuances, understanding the organizational component, understanding what the audience is anticipating, and putting all the pieces together. Delivering your speech is the final display of the puzzle, right? With all the pieces in their right place, a beautiful image there, you know, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the hard work that you've done to create this beautiful thing that you're presenting. That's what it is. Delivering your speech will, in essence, be the final product. Yeah. Okay. So, what is it in delivering your speech? Don't lower your expectations to meet performance. All right. Don't lower your expectations to meet performance. What that means is, if you think that you are a poor presenter, right? You are not strong. Don't lower your expectations to basically suffice the fact that you're going to be a poor performer. I'm not going to do very well, so I'm not even going to really try. I'm not going to do very well, so I'm not going to be optimistic or enthusiastic. I'm not going to have good energy. I'm going to just be kind of downtrodden and present like this. My formative speech is about, you know, don't lower your expectations to meet your performance. Raise your performance to meet your expectations. I want to have a great performance. I want to impact my audience and give them information that they'll be able to make a strong decision, an ethical decision as a result of. So I'm going to raise my performance. I'm going to practice. I'm going to outline. I'm going to organize. I'm going to have a strong introduction that's going to have my main points in a thesis format, that's going to have an attention-getting device, right? That's going to outline the points that I'm going to deliver, and it's going to transition smoothly into my body, the body of my speech. I'm going to have a body that highlights main points and subpoints with smooth transitions. I'm going to utilize in my outline these main points and subpoints that are not constructed in a sentence format, because I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time reading all of my content on my speech and not giving my audience eye contact. I'm going to have keywords, key phrases, and shortened sentences so I can look down really quickly, know what I'm going to say next, and deliver, right? I'm also going to have a body that includes ethical information, right? Credible information, researched information that I pull from credible sources. I need at least 2 of them for the informative speech, right? What I'm also going to do is have a strong transition to my conclusion. And I'm also going to restate those main points that I initially presented in the introduction in thesis format. I'm going to restate those. So in conclusion, what I focused on are this, this, and this, right? And then what am I going to do after that? I'm going to give you a lasting impression, right? And then I'm going to present an opportunity for you to consider what you're going to do with the information. I may ask a rhetorical question. I may ask a general question. I may present a challenge to the audience after the fact. I'm going to do all this in my conclusion, right? Throughout this process, I'm going to maintain eye contact for the most part, occasionally referencing my outline, but doing it in an extemporaneous or conversational capacity or method, right? To match the capacity, the approach that I'm looking to achieve in my presentation, right? I'm going to measure my tone, and we'll talk about that, the vocal aspects of delivery momentarily, right? I'm going to be confident in my content, right? If there's more than one individual that I'm addressing, I'm going to make sure that I pan and I address and give an equal amount of eye contact to all individuals. If there's a visual aid, I'm going to make sure I practice the visual aid. I utilize it in the correct method, and I also signpost or I transition to that visual aid to and from it accurately, so I don't leave my audience guessing what they're looking at or what they're listening to or what they're, you know, participating in. All right. I'm going to be cognizant of the time that I have for this presentation, ensuring that I'm not too far under or too far over the designated time frame. All right. All those things will happen and they'll be showcased most proficiently in the delivery of the speech. But all those things are things that you can prepare for, that you can practice with an audience of yourself in front of a mirror or audience of others that will give you honest and ethical feedback, right? And that is, in essence, how you'll go about raising your performance to meet the expectation of having a great speech. And what you'll do is you'll do that again and again and again, and you will become stronger. You'll become more proficient. You'll become more effective because you'll have that consistency, right? You'll have that the redundancy, in essence. You'll have that continued practice, right? Practice makes perfect. You'll do it again and again and again, and that'll make you a stronger speaker because you will know what to expect. You'll stumble, you'll get better, you'll realize you need to practice this word or know the definition of this word, or be more comfortable giving eye contact to these individuals in this capacity, and that will be the practice that makes you better. Because no book, no chapter, no definition will make you a better public speaker. The practice of public speaking is going to make you a better public speaker, and understanding how to deliver your speech is going to give you the fuel, the foundation for that, okay? What's the point? One man on a New York street comes up to another and asks, how can I get to Carnegie Hall? Carnegie Hall is a famed music performance hall, right? Like Davies Hall at UC Davis, right? Or like, I don't really know in Sacramento where, but like in San Francisco, think about the Regency Ballroom, or you think about the, whatever the case is, a place where it, to get there, you either have to be really good or you have to pay a lot of money, right? So that's in essence what this is. It's an analogy. Think about it like that. So one man on a New York street comes up to another and asks, how can I get to Carnegie Hall? Now you're probably thinking he's asking as far as directions are concerned. But the second man answers, practice, right? That's how you get there. How do you get to becoming a great public speaker? No amount of books, no amount of YouTube videos, no amount of anything else is going to get you there outside of your own practice and your own understanding of the process. Practice and process, right? That's what it's all about. So how are you going to deliver the speech? Well, you are going to do an extemporaneous delivery. If you're looking at the page that I'm sharing here, that's number 4, extemporaneous. That's conversational. But let's talk about the other ways that you could potentially deliver a speech so you can understand the difference, right? So of course, there's the manuscript delivery, right? The manuscript delivery is where you are reading the content of your speech, right? For instance, if I have a book in front of me, right? And I should have had a book. I don't have one. Right? But I'm literally verbatim reading what's there. I may be giving eye contact, but what I'm doing is I'm literally reading something verbatim that's already stated. I'm reading a manuscript, right? So for instance, I'm going to actually just pick a random book here. All right. Oh, look at this. One of my first texts, Public Speaking, 4th edition from like 1990 something. Very first public speaking books. I think it's actually from when I was in school, to be honest. Whatever the case. If I was delivering a manuscript speech about using a standard format, right, I would basically do this. Before the advent of computers and word processing programs, students had to use their typewriter's tab feature to line up points and subpoints. Fortunately, for most computer software programs now have a number of formatting features, right? Now, I literally read that because it's like a manuscript. If I were to type out a full speech and I were to read it to you, even if I'm giving eye contact using nonverbal gestures, so on and so forth, it's still a manuscript speech. So that's a representation of what that looks like, right? Memorization, of course, is where you memorize your entire speech. You may not even have an outline. You may not have a teleprompter or anything else helping you, but you have all the content inside your mind, right? I won't talk about the highlights and lowlights of that too much, but do understand that if you memorize something, you could potentially forget it, and that could impact the quality of your presentation, right? Also think about other types of performances, right? Think about performing music, singing a song, right? If you forget the lyrics to your song, in essence, one would deem that as a, maybe not so successful performance, right? It'd be the same thing with the speech. You forget sections of your speech, it may throw you off and you won't be as consistent. You won't have the continuity within your speech. You may not know the key areas where you need to transition and talk about something else. You may leave out key details that leave gaps in your speech where your audience will, in essence, not have the information they need to make, to create a perspective and, and do something with the content. So memorization can be great, but it can also be problematic. And then you have an impromptu. Impromptu, of course, is where you haven't planned anything. And we're actually going to have this speech later on. It'll be impromptu. You might not know about when we're going to have it, but I'm just going to just pop up and say, all right, by Sunday, send in an impromptu speech, right? Whatever the case. It won't be as impromptu as it would be if we had class, because then I could just drop it on you one day in class. If we're doing impromptu speeches today, right? We're doing them in this order. So it's a little different. It's not as impromptu, but impromptu is basically where you are prompted on something and you have to just deliver on it, right? Someone walks up to you in the hallway of the campus and says, hey, can you tell me about your experience at this institution in higher education, or, what your challenges were coming from high school to college, or what it is you want to do in your life. And how will higher education help you with that, right? And you have to give an impromptu response right then and there. You didn't get to prepare for it. You don't have main points and subpoints ready to go. You don't have pieces of evidence to support and add credibility to the spiel, right? You just have to go for it. That's an impromptu speech. Last but not least is the extemporaneous speech or the conversational speech. This is where you are informed. You may even be aware of the conversation or the presentation where you've been able to prepare for it. You may have some statistics or some credible information that you can use to support your position and the information you're providing. But you don't have a memorized version of the content. You're not reading verbatim something on a manuscript. And it isn't necessarily impromptu. It's kind of the combination of all the previous ones, but in a more conversational capacity, right? You're giving eye contact, using nonverbal gestures, right? You're building commonality and trust with your audience, right? You're bringing credible information and remaining ethical. You're objective, in essence, unless there is a reason to have a persuasive appeal. So that's our extemporaneous, and that's why we are working on this through this format, this type of speech for the majority of our speeches, because it will give you the best opportunity to grow and to become the best public speaker possible, right? Once you're great at extemporaneous speeches, then you'll become better at reading manuscript speeches, but also doing it with character, right? Doing it in a way that still includes your audience and gives you a little personality. You'll get better at memorization of speeches because you'll understand all the nuances of everything else that's happening in the delivery of your speech. You understand how to move. You understand what to do with your face and your eyes. You understand what to do with the feedback that's coming back from the audience real time, immediately, in the transactional capacity, right? But you won't forget the content that's memorized, right? Maybe make you a better performer if you're a poet or a singer or a rapper, or, if you do acrobatics or whatever the case. It may make you better at that as well. And they'll, of course, make you better at an impromptu speech, because guess what you'll start to automatically do? You automatically start to prepare yourself for any setting where you have to disseminate information. When someone calls you out and they want you to do something, if you're experienced in public speaking, you have experience with delivery, you have experience with extemporaneous delivery methods, and that's building outlines within your mind or on an outline, an actual physical outline sheet, you'll start to do that in your mind. So someone says, hey man, real quick, apples or oranges, which ones are better and why? You'll immediately start to create an outline in your head. Well, I like apples because of the skin, the taste. You can make desserts with them. Oranges are great because they're citrus. You start to think about that, and you'll just, hey, I think apples are better to me, but I'm going to give you a pro and con really quickly. Apples are great because of this. Oranges are good as well, but they're not as great as this. And these are different things, vitamin C versus vitamin D and A, and whatever the case, right? You'll start to do that in your mind automatically because you have so much experience. It'll make you better in the impromptu setting, right? So that's why we're focused on the extemporaneous methods to deliver, but those are the 4 that you should know for delivering your speech. Great quote here. It is the delivery that makes the orator's success, right? You can be a great writer. You can be a great speaker. You can be the best with your pronunciation and enunciation and understanding of languages, but can you deliver? Can you perform, right? Consider our presidential debate that we just talked about from last night, right? Independently, the President, Donald Trump, and Vice President Joe Biden are strong in being an orator. They're strong with their rhetoric, but can they deliver in a specific setting, a speech dissemination debate, whatever you want to call it, in a setting where they have to put all these things together and deliver in order to satisfy the purpose of being in front of an audience, right? And that's what it's all about. You might feel that you have a nice presentation, you're pretty, you're handsome, right? You may feel that you speak well, or maybe you are a strong reader. You may feel that you can convey emotions well, right? You may feel that you are not weird or awkward in a social setting. But you have to put all those things together to be a strong speaker in your delivery. That's what, in essence, what the quote is saying here, that's what produces the orator's success, doing all those things, right? You have people that are really smart that struggle with public speaking, right? You have people who are in the public sector a lot, you know, teachers, you know, public servants that, you know, can maybe look like they haven't done it for as long as they have in the eye of the audience, right? It's because they aren't building their ability to deliver. And when you're able to deliver, then that in essence qualifies you as success in all the aforementioned areas. Really quickly, what are the things within the delivery that help you with your success level? These are the vocal aspects of delivery, okay? And there are 7 sections here, 7 main things that you should consider in your vocal, the vocal capacity of delivery, right? What are you doing with the words that are coming out of your mouth? What are you doing with the content of your speech, right? The majority of us think that we write a great outline, right? And then we prepare ourselves to be confident in front of others at the podium or in front of the camera, and that's it. There's more to it. And I try to show you consistently when I'm doing my lectures here, even through Zoom. But articulation, it's important to focus on your ability to say what it is you're trying to say and say it the correct way. Your enunciation, right? Saying words that are clear, and they're, you know, they adhere to a universal accepted definition of how things should be said or how they should be pronunciated or enunciated, right? But your articulation adds to the clarity of the content that you're saying, so people know exactly what it is that you're talking about. This can be difficult if you have an accent. It can be difficult if you're not native to the content, whether it be the place or the business or the people that you are addressing. You may say things that are rooted in regionalisms, as we talked about with chapter 10, using language well, or colloquialisms, or that are impacted by your understanding of definitions, right? You may use different words if you speak a different language, and you might put that in there, or you may change around the order of words so that it doesn't necessarily fit the language that you're using for your speech. For instance, English. If you speak Spanish or you speak another language, you may have a choppy version of English because you're, in essence, creating a connection, right, between your language and this language, and things may be a little out of place. Right, so that's articulation. Pronunciation, again, talking about the accents, the regionalism, the dialect. So those are things that you have to be cognizant of. And again, you're only going to get better with those through practice. If you don't know how to pronounce a word, look it up. They have a Google, if you Google a word, they give you an option on here, the pronunciation of the word, break down the syllables of the word. So you have to put the work in just a little bit if you're, you know, entertaining concepts and content that you're not familiar with. You got to put the work in so you understand. All right, vocal quality, right? Vocal quality has to do with what you're doing with your actual voice, less about the pronunciation, enunciation, the dictation, the dialect. This is more about the actual sounds that are coming out of your mouth, right? Consider pitch and inflection. Your pitch, of course, is if you are like really high-pitched speaker, you have a really high voice, it's pitchy, or potentially one would describe pitchy as being sharp, right? You can be really high, really high, right? Or you can have a really low-pitched voice that has a deep, you know, kind of like a grovelly or a growly sound to it, right? I think my voice is in the middle. I think I'm more of a low pitch, but I can be really high pitched, right? Depending on the emotion I'm trying to convey. But you can manipulate your pitch and your inflection, and that's important. Sometimes it may be necessary to say things with a deep pitch, right? To bring it down, bring it home, make it solid, anchor the content. That's what I call it. Sometimes it's important to pitch it up a little bit. You know, bring an excited energy, a high-pitched energy to the content, right? Tone, right? Your vocal tone. The tone is what you're conveying through the content, right? You can have a tone that makes you seem a little angry, right? And that could, tone and pitch can work hand in hand, right? So maybe if I want to sound angry, I'm going to sound real angry. I'm going to maybe become more rapid with my content. I'm going to become deeper with my pitch, right? And that tone will change because it's a reflection of the different things I'm doing with these other areas, right? Elocution, right? Basically how eloquent you are with the pitch and inflection, if you're managing those things accurately. Another thing with tone is tone and tempo can work hand in hand as well, right? If you're speaking with a rapid tempo, you're speaking really fast, you know, you may convey you having a nervous, right, or lacking confidence in your tone, right, because of these different things that are combined in there, right? So tempo is the rate of speech, right? If you're going really fast or really slow. Again, tone is I like to say the emotion that's displayed within your speech. So your tone, you can have, like, someone can have a sharp tone, right? They can have a soft tone, right? Your tone can depict anger or frustration or sadness, right? A somber tone. Imagine if someone has a somber tone to their speech, right? I'm going to talk about cancer and the impact that cancer has had on my life, right? It's taken individuals from me that are very close to me, and it's given me a sense of morality, understanding that I may not be here forever, right? That's a somber tone, right? Because you're thinking about things that may have caused pain or hurt or hardship in the speakers in their life, and they're conveying that. And they're doing it not only with their content, but they're doing it with their voice. They're doing it with the emotion they're displaying non-verbally, so on and so forth. Right? Let's jump down to pauses, verbalized pauses, non-verbalized pauses, okay? So we do this often. We have pauses that are non-verbalized, right? Meaning that we have pauses where we think about what it is we're going to say. That was an example of a non-verbalized pause. I just paused because I want you to sit on the last phrase, the last part of that sentence, right? Think about what it is we're going to say. And I sit, and that last thing kind of bounces around, right? Reverberates. It sits in that space, and then I continue on. But I can also have a verbalized pause where I say, take a minute. Take a minute to think about what you want to be, what you want to do, and how you want to be. What do you want to do in your delivery? How do you want to be perceived? Take 1 second now and imagine yourself as the perfect public speaker. That's a verbalized pause. I said take that time to do it. It was intentional, right? And you can anticipate that when I say take a minute or take some time or pause for a second, breathe, or any of those things, that you're going to go ahead and have a break from the content. You won't hear me say anything for a certain amount of time. So sometimes the pauses can be intentional. Well, they're usually intentional. Sometimes they can be communicated, and sometimes they can just happen, okay? Vocal projection. Where are you throwing your voice? What part of the room is going to catch your voice? If you're talking to a group of people right in front of you, you might not project it very far. If you're looking to address those way in the back of the room, you might throw your voice out a little further so that it can hit that wall and come back, right? Almost like you're throwing a tennis ball, playing catch, right? Throw it, you gotta get way back there, you gotta toss it so whoever's way back there can catch it, right? Maybe play with the angles, and you know that this wall has a little bit of an echo, or you know, you bounce off there and you play with your voice a little bit. You have to understand your setting, of course. You have to have a grasp on your own voice, on your own ability to project before you get really strong at this. But understand it is something that you have to consider. You may be talking in a big space, an open space that has an echo, outside. You know, there may be other noises going on. So those are things that you'll have to take into consideration, okay? All right, finding your pace. Pace is something that was challenging for some of you in the 30-second icebreaker speech because you had a shortened time frame. You had to knock something out in 45 seconds. So you got a little anxious, and some of us, and you had to rush through it, right? So your pace and tone are kind of work hand in hand with tempo, right? Because pace can dictate how fast you're going over materials to meet a certain extended time frame, but your tempo will dictate something in the short term. Right? You could be trying to reach a time frame of 4 minutes and you had a moderate pace throughout, but you get to the last 30 seconds and your pace increases and the tempo of your speech increases as well, because you realize you only have 20 seconds before you hit this boundary of time, right? So you have to understand your pace, and understanding your pace requires you to do something that I've been kind of preaching since the beginning of the class. You have to organize, you have to practice. You establish your pace by becoming proficient with the content that you have and the time frame you have to deliver it, right? Finding your pace. So table 12.1 is a kind of a blueprint on finding the right pace for your speech, understanding where your tempo can impact the effectiveness of your speech in essence. And so the combination of the tempo and the tone will create the pace, right? So if you speak too quickly, the audience might get the impression that you have nothing important to say. You speed through things really quickly, right? Yeah, I'm gonna go, you know, think about when you're explaining something that you don't really want to explain, right? We normally don't take our time with that. We kind of rush through that, right? Your parent or guardian says something like, hey, you know, what are you doing? You're going out with your friends later. What are you doing, right? You have two approaches to it usually, right? You are going to be slow, like, we're going to hang out, right? Or you might have a really fast pace and, we're just going to go, you know, get something to eat and hang out and, you know, just go watch the stars, right? Because you don't really give the content. So the audience might, you get the impression that you have nothing to say if you speak too quickly, right? But if you speak too slowly, the audience might also think that you're too tired to be presenting. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 12, delivering your speech. Chapter 12, if I deliver this lecture like that, you will be disinterested. You probably disconnect and say, okay, I want to read the chapter myself and maybe even speed up the YouTube video so that this is all going faster or something. But another thing about speaking too quickly is that the audience has a difficult time catching up and comprehending what you're saying, right? They need time to digest the information, so plan periodic pauses. And that's intentional. I do that a lot. When I say something and I want it to kind of just sit with you, I'll give you a pause. Just like that, right? But if you speak too slowly, the audience can forget the first part of your sentence by the time you get to the last. It really does happen like that, right? And they'll just lose interest. So if I say, I really like the color blue. The reason is everyone has favorites, and your favorites can be different. They can have things in them that are familiar with where you have experienced things in your life, or maybe even reflective of your personality. And you probably can't remember the first part of my sentence, right? What is he talking about? Oh, something about blue, right? Whatever. It can happen. The audience can lose interest and forget what it is that you're even talking about. And they'll just disconnect. They may turn into other things, pick up their phone, start texting. They could potentially even leave, right? I've seen it happen. Last point here is if you speak too quickly, the audience might think that you really do not want to be there, right? I'm just getting this done. I'm over it. I'm just fulfilling my time, my obligation here, and I'm trying to get you out of my hair. But if you speak too slowly, the audience might think that you're wasting their time by taking longer than necessary to relay your message, trying to fill a time slot, right? It can happen. So finding your pace is really important. You want to be right in the middle of these things. You have something important to say, but you're not too tired, right? You want to allow them time to comprehend, to digest, but you also don't want them to forget all the information you're providing. And of course, you want them to know that you want to be there, but you're not trying to keep them there too long either, right? All right, so last but not least, let's think about what we're doing when we're delivering our speech. What all is important? What all is being observed? What all should be encompassed in the practice of becoming the strongest deliverer of your content, all right? Nonverbal aspects of delivery are as follows. Your personal appearance is important, right? What to wear, what not to wear, right? In the text, it has an outline, a table that describes things that are appropriate, things that are inappropriate. Now, just know a quick little, dummy's guide to personal appearance. Don't wear anything that's going to be too much of a distraction, right? Or have too heavy of a message to where your audience is going to be thinking about that more than thinking about what you're actually saying. That very well may be the intent. You may be trying to send a message with your attire. If that's the case, then so be it. Then we're not talking about delivering an extemporaneous speech. We're talking about something completely different, right? From performing. Right? This is different. Personal appearance, when you actually have something to say out of your mouth, it should be subdued. It should be subtle. It should be conservative. It should be a representation of the audience and the environment that you're a part of, right? Movements and gestures. You have to find your sweet spot when it comes to your movements and gestures. I use my hands on occasion, but I do it subtly, right? I'm not up here with it. Yeah, you got to do this and do that, right? That'd be a distraction. I'm down here with it. So you can see that I'm doing something, I'm engaged, I'm invested, but it doesn't distract too much from my face or my content, right? I may say something very small. I may say something very large. I may say something that is important for you to take into consideration. I may say there's something that you should back away from and just, not be as focused or connected to. But I try to keep those things subtle. They're low. They're right like at the bottom near my chest, outside of my face. They're sometimes not even in the full screen, but they're happening. So I think that leads to you thinking, you knowing I'm more invested than not. I don't really know, but it works for me. There's other things that happen in body language you have to take into consideration. Facial expression. When I'm saying something that I'm surprised about, I usually raise my eyebrows, right? Make my eyes a little bigger. When I'm saying something that you should be skeptical about or that I don't fully understand, I might lower my eyes a little bit, right? Do the suspect eyes, right? If I'm doing something that I'm happy about, I'm excited about, or I want you to kind of convey that same emotion, you might see a big smile come on my face. I might smize with my eyes, right? Smile with my eyes. If I am conveying something that's sad, maybe it's more somber, I might just bring down my energy a little bit. I might become more connected just to you in the content, a little more measured in my words. So you're doing a lot of things with your facial expression, your eye contact. There are 3 different types of eye contact areas that are faux pas, in essence, that are taboo, that you should not engage in, right? The eye contact, the head bobber, right? The head bobber is, of course, a person that is, you're bobbing back and forth. You're looking, bop, 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 right? You're not focused, and it's going to be a distraction to your audience because they're trying to follow your eyes. Like, why is he looking around like that? What's wrong with this guy, right? Or this presenter. So the head bobber is not something that you necessarily want to get caught doing, even if you're trying to give eye contact to everyone in your audience. Remember, a subtle and inclusive pan is totally sufficient. Now, there's a lot that we have to do in order to be at the place we want to be at, right? In order to do things that we want to do, right? Just give a subtle hand and connect. Connect here, hand, connect there, hand, connect there. Bring it back, right? You don't have to do all this, make it subtle and comfortable. The balcony gazer is the person that talks like this. I'm going to talk to you guys about making a ham sandwich. You know, the best ever ham, Oscar Mayer. Put it in the microwave for like 30 seconds. It's good on like wheat bread, you know, some mayonnaise or something, you know, right? We see that. Sometimes that person may be gathering their thoughts, they may be controlling their own communication apprehension, right? Or their own anxiousness or fear. Whatever the case, it's distracting for the audience because you're not connecting with them. They can't invest with you. And then you have the obsessor, the weirdness, right? No, I'm just kidding. It happens sometimes where we are so intense and so connected to our content that we're just giving you eye contact. Just you. Hey, yeah, so I want to talk to you about, you know, and you're like, can you look at somebody else, dude? It's like weird, right? But that's the obsessor. It's focused on one person for too long. You know, sometimes the eyes are a little wider, right? And it may be just that they're really focused on their content and they just are really trying to get it out. It's not necessarily you. It could be you. But, you know, anyway, we say that all to say that that can be uncomfortable and it can take away from your delivery. Everything else can be great, but if you are a head bobber or a balcony gazer or an obsessor, it can detract from your delivery. We talked about this when understanding the tempo and the projection of our voice, mastering your location. You won't always know where it is you're going to present or what that space fully entails. You might not have access to it, right? But if you can, you want to consider the room that you're a part of, right? The podium that you'll be utilizing, equipment that you may or may not have, right? Microphones, speakers, so on and so forth. How to use the microphone or the speaker if you have one, not allowing feedback to happen, putting the mic in front of the speakers, or speaking too closely, you know, to where your voice sounds muffled, or too far away to where you can't really get the microphone projection that you need. How to sip water or whatever substance is in your cup, right? Yet there's an art to it. On Zoom, I normally, sometimes, it depends. If someone else is presenting, I may just take a sip right there. If I'm presenting, I usually go off camera for a little bit, or, you know, in the space, and I might take a sip, and I'll come back, right? But you have to find a space that works for you. And it's going to depend on the different setting, and the different things that are being utilized in that space. If you have a podium, if you don't have a podium, does the water cup stay on the podium? Does the water bottle go on the floor? You can reach down. You know, do you vocalize and communicate? Hey, I'm going to take a sip of water. Do you just say pause? Do you just let a pause happen and then do it? Practice. You got to figure out what works for you. It's different things will work in different scenarios. Colin Powell has a great quote here. I included it because it's just something that you should internalize. No, there are no secrets to success. Nothing secret about it. You know to be successful in whatever it is you want to do, whether it's sports, business, education, you know, cooking, relationships, whatever. Got to prepare. Got to work hard. Got to learn when it doesn't go your way. That's it. Got to prepare. Got to work hard. And you learn from it when it doesn't go your way. That's what leads to success, right? Applying those three things will, in essence, give you more success. Last but not least, preparation, practice, and delivery. Well, how do you get there? How do you get to delivery? You take all these things into consideration. You were thinking about all these things, all that. Like, well, okay, how does it happen to where you just do that in your delivery? You prepare for it. In your outline, you specify how long your introduction is going to be. Write some notes, time yourself. I'm going to try to do my introduction in 35 seconds, right? I'm going to say these key things in my introduction. Don't forget your introduction and conclusion can be completely written out, verbatim. You can actually manuscript your introduction and your conclusion only. I wouldn't recommend you get in the habit of that because then you may, you know, have that eye contact issue. If you initiate the speech a certain way where you're reading in the body, you want to just read some more. right? But you can script out the introduction and the conclusion in your outline, and then you can utilize that, and you can either read it or you can just kind of conversationally gesture towards that or refer towards that. All right, but your preparation is going to be really important. After you prepare, meaning you have your outline, you remember there's two types of outlines you can utilize: your preparation outline and then your speaking outline. Your preparation outline is going to have the scratch marks on it, the erasing, adding stuff, all that stuff. Your speaking outline is going to be the final version that's all set in stone. You could have typed that thing out because there's not going to be any mistakes, typos, additions, or subtractions. You work through it. How do you get from the preparation outline to the speaking outline? You rehearse, you practice, right? Do it in front of a mirror. Do it in front of a loved one, a friend, family member, whatever the case. Time yourself with a timer. You not doing these things is you being lazy, right? There's nothing that's stopping you from doing that. When you get to a point where you have the content of your informative speech ready to go, whether it's a finished product or not, take some time to go in front of a mirror and just deliver it, right? Understand how long it's going to take you. Understand words that you may not be able to pronounce or you're not be familiar with. Understand the emotion that's going to come with different aspects of the content that you're delivering. And what do you look like when you're delivering that emotion, right? Become familiar with those things. All right, and then you're going to deliver the speech when it's speech time. Whether you're doing a self-recording or you're doing a live Zoom session, you will encompass all of these things that you've learned, utilize your preparation notes, and utilize the rehearsal feedback that you receive either from yourself or from a loved one, and then that will help you in delivering the best speeches you possibly deliver. Oh, pardon. That y'all came out of nowhere. All right, last but not least, last quote to hold you. All the real work is done in the rehearsal period. That's the real work. Just like if you are an athlete, the work is done on the practice court or on the practice field or in the gym. That's where you get the strength you need to be successful. That's where you get the repetitions and the practice to understand what the regimen is, or the regiment and the ritual is, or to do what you got to do, right? That's the real work. The performance is the play. It's the fun part. It's like, I'm so good at this, I'm just going to have fun with it. And all the normal things, the muscle memory, all that stuff is just going to come out because you have become so proficient at it through practice, right? And that's chapter 12, ladies and gentlemen, delivering your speech. Take those things into consideration. Consider the feedback that I'm providing for the Who Am I speech. If you haven't gotten it yet, you'll get it soon enough. And then start to build that informative speech for your outline. Understand where you're going with the content. Consider those types of speeches. How are you going to deliver the information? Are you going to be descriptive? Are you going to be demonstrative? Are you going to be explanatory? Are you going to be, I always forget the fourth one. Descriptive or definitional. That's right. Definitional, descriptive, explanatory, or demonstrative, right? You have a thesis statement. You have visual aids. Have you done research, right, to back up the content that you're using? The evidence check discussion is going to open up this upcoming weekend, and that's where you're going to start to put your evidence in there. You have to put in 2 pieces of evidence for 5 points each. That will be a part of your total speech. All right, that'll be a part of the delivery and the outline points. So that's going to happen. So don't forget, you're going to have an evidence check, so you can't make it up. You're going to have to let me know what the evidence is. I may or may not look it up. Right? You just need to make sure that it's credible and real. Right? But yeah. That, in essence, is delivering your speech, ladies and gentlemen. If you have questions about any area of that, please don't hesitate to let me know. We can do questions.